Okay, all right. Hello everybody and welcome to Heifer USA's Great American Farm Tour. My name is Tyler Pearson and we are coming to you live from Circle C Farm just outside of Felda, Florida, and it is a beautiful day. I'm joined here with owner-operator Nicole Cruz.
Morning!
Hey Nicole, we are so excited. I am just incredibly excited. It is beautiful out here and we have so much to show you. This is an amazing farm. You won't want to miss everything that we have to show you. The live broadcast, answer any questions you have in the live chat. If you're watching the recorded version, just type them down in the comments below. And we've got a lot to show you. They're mixing their own feed here. They're running laying hens. They're running meat chickens. They have grass-fed sheep, cattle, so much more. They do their own processing on this farm. Nicole has a ton of knowledge and experience, and I can't wait to get started. So keep watching this live stream or this video and just ask your questions. I'll be monitoring the chat. And we're just going to jump right into it and get started with today's content. I'm going to put this backpack on my shoulder so I don't have to hold the camera the whole time. And yeah, let's get going. All right, Nicole, how are you today?
I am fabulous. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for inviting Heifer USA to your farm.
No, thank you for the invitation and the opportunity.
Absolutely. You have an amazing operation going on here. I just got here, but I can't wait to see everything and hear what you have to say about what you guys have been doing. Let me start with just a quick couple of questions.
Sure.
How long have you been farming here?
Well, we purchased this property in 2012. And so within about a year, we were able to have the site areas adjusted enough and to be able to set and put in new fencing. We were able to take advantage of the grove because it was an old grove 20 or 30 years before we had purchased it. So we had the rise in the lows of the pastures. Mm-hmm. And so it's been 10 years now. And
awesome.
Actually yesterday we celebrated our 5-year anniversary of our USDA inspected processing facility. So that's been sorry about my puppies. That's been an amazing adventure too, as part of this whole thing. So it's been 10 really wonderful but crazy and exciting and stressful and lovingly incredible on a learning spectrum. You know, from that standpoint, it's just been a lot.
Absolutely.
So it's been good.
And just tell me a little bit about the geography. Where are we? Kind of what's the climate here year round? What do you guys face as far as the elements go?
Well, we are located in South Florida or South Central Florida. So as you're coming down the peninsula, I can't do it like some of the other states,
right?
But as you're coming down, we're about halfway between the East Coast and the West Coast. And so we're an hour east of Naples, Fort Myers, Bonita Springs, and Cape Coral. And then we would be about an hour and a half west of Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and that space.
And then are you guys farming year round here pretty much?
We do. So the benefit of being here in Florida is that we can farm 12 months a year.
Very cool.
And so some people ask me, how are your seasons and things like that? And I kind of joke about it, but the truth of the matter is that I look at it and say we have 3 seasons. We have wet, wetter, and wettest, and we have hot, hotter, and hottest. And that's because the truth is that, I mean, even today, it's going to probably hit 90, 95 degrees by the time it's lunchtime. And so, you know, we're dealing with different kinds of elements than you would in a place where, like in Virginia where I grew up, where you had 4 complete seasons. Mm-hmm. So that's something that really does impact and affect our farming, how we farm, what we do different times of the year, how we look at our pasture grass, how, you know, every component of what we do. Again, the upside is we can farm 12 months a year.
Awesome.
So we're actually able to have our pasture poultry out 12 months a year.
And so just real quick, and then we'll get started. What are some of the things folks are going to see today on the tour? So
we're almost 200 acres. And we have, as you had mentioned, we have our laying hens. We have our meat chickens. We have our grass-finished cattle. We have our grass-finished sheep. We have our pastured pigs. We also have our hives are in the process of being moved by our beekeeper. So we have a couple hives strategically placed around here. And then we're going to start with our rice.
Awesome. Well, let's check it out.
Okay, then let's go this way.
All right.
So what we try to do, and it's what a lot of farmers do, is you're looking at your space, your equipment, your materials, your facilities, and we really want to make sure that we're utilizing everything appropriately. And if something has a double usage opportunity, then we take advantage of that. So in here, this is actually our brooder, and it's our rice drying facility and space. So because we're so hot and so wet during certain times of the year during the summer, that June, July, August, September time frame, we go ahead and we will pull back our laying hen chicks or our meat chicks, and instead of bringing them in because it is so hot or so wet, and then also we have to deal with hurricanes or potential hurricanes. So that also comes into play for us that it may not for other farmers around the country. So we utilize this space during the summer because this is also rice production and harvesting time. So we take advantage of the building and making it a multi-purpose structure. And by doing that, we can dry all of our rice, utilize it through what we need for feeding for the summer and into fall, but then we also are drying and stockpiling for the rest of the year when they're not harvesting rice. And so that gives us the opportunity to utilize our space in a really cost-effective way of not having to create extra structures that have to be maintained and things like that.
That's awesome. So you guys really are just vertically integrated so much, from all the way from the feed to the process, to raising them on pasture to the processing, right?
We are, and it wasn't something that was in the original plan and design. It was really a matter of this is what needed to happen based upon our experiences of trying to put all the different pieces and parts together. And as many farmers know, the more you can control, the better off you are in many ways, not always, but in many ways. But the other side of that is you have to have the space, you have to have the knowledge, you have to have the structure, you have to be able to put the financial capital or shimmy things around to make sure you can do that. So, it's one of those things where we didn't decide to do that at the beginning, but it's kind of evolved. And as a result, I think it's been really beneficial for us because of where we're located in the country and because of where we're located in the state. We are able to work directly with the farmer that raises, or in this case, grows the rice and the milo. So we are actually talking farmer to farmer. We're not going through distributors. We're not dealing with third parties. We're not dealing with those things. We're literally dealing with another farmer. And so by being able to talk to them, we know that our rice and our milos, we know they're chem-free. We don't use any chemicals on the property. So it all has to start with the end in mind. We talk about being pasture to plate. So everything from the pasture to the plate needs to be consistent. And so by us controlling that, it makes it a whole lot easier.
That's awesome.
It does add in a lot of variables that most other people don't have to deal with. It does create a lot more stress, a lot more pressure, a lot more coordination. And so that's something you got to know when you get into that part of it, that it does add a lot more intensity. It's a good thing, but it's got a lot of extra layers to it.
Cool. So where do you guys source this from?
So we source this locally from the Belglade area, and that's about an hour and a half from us. And so we, as I mentioned, we're working with the farmer, and he owns his farming space, so he can control his farming space. And being able to do that, we can coordinate. And so what we do is we coordinate for the harvesting and then the delivery, because we bring the trucks here, they unload, we load out all of this rice, which comes directly from the field, out of the combine, into the truck, to the farm. So it's literally from their field to our farm.
Awesome.
And so that is a really amazing opportunity. And if you look at this, you're gonna be able to see the fact that this is a really nutrient-dense rice because it's got everything in it. And so this way we're able to take advantage of all of the value in the rice itself. And so that adds for that extra nutrient value.
That's amazing. And once it's all dried out, you said you store it here on the farm too?
So what we do is, because we are in Florida, and our reality is we are in a hurricane zone, everything that we do and have designed, and we're going to talk more about this as we go through the farm this morning, is we have to think about the fact that we're going to have a hurricane at some point come through here. We had Hurricane Irma that came through in September of 2017, and that wiped us out, and we had to start over. It took out all of our poultry, all of our buildings, everything. And so we really did a redesign on that, and a reevaluation on all of our buildings and structures. And so that being said, when we looked for appropriate storage spacing for all of our rice, our milo, all of our feed that we blend, because we have a proprietary blend, we put that in a 40-foot shipping container. And we do that because it's not going to fall, it's not going to flip over, it's going to stay dry, it's going to stay preserved, it's going to stay mold-free. And we just load it right in there, fill up several shipping containers, and use it when we need it.
Very cool.
And then we also have silos, so we also can pump into silos as well.
Awesome. I'm going to jump in and just say hi to our live audience real quick. Step back here. Yeah, so hey everybody, let us know where you're watching from. Hey to Keith Allen in Queensland, Australia, and hey to Karen Gallegos in Alberta, Canada. We got folks watching in South Africa, Shyam Kadari in Texas, all over the country. Hey Cindy Tonenson, how are you? Thank you guys so much for joining us on the live tour. Lots going on, as you can see, lots we're going to cover. Folks working, we're probably going to see a lot of that today. They're loading up some feed. We're here in the chick brooder, where they're also double using it as a drying facility for their proprietary blend of feed that they're using for their chicks. That's so awesome. I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
Well, cool. What do we want to talk about next?
Well, the other thing too is that since we have the rice in here right now, we don't have our baby chicks. So we would typically, when we're brooding, this would be our brooder. So I know everybody's got a little bit different design. As you can see, what we did is we set the water lines and we have the little cups. And so we pull it up to keep it out of the way. We drop it down, and then we put feeders throughout the brooder when the baby chicks get here. We've got heaters. Well, it's probably similar to other poultry farmers. They're the dome heaters. And so we're able to use the space for that, and we can typically fit in here between 8,000 and 9,000 chicks.
Awesome. And do y'all do the deep bedding method?
We use wood shavings, and so what we also do with that is once we clean between every group. We clean and sanitize between every group. We do the wood shavings because we'll take that and compost. And again, because we're here in Florida, we have the opportunity to set a compost pile, flip it, and then be able to turn around and utilize that with our, we have a mini food forest here, and we've got our citrus and our trees, so we use it for that, as well as spin it back on top of some of the pastures that we might not get the chickens into that year, just because of the nature of the rotation on the farm.
Very cool. I bet with all this heat and humidity, it probably breaks down pretty well.
Yeah, it does. It's pretty intense. It is definitely intense chicken manure.
Awesome.
So,
well, that looks really great. Thank you so much for showing us that.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. And I'm glad so many people have had a chance to join us.
Absolutely.
So, well, then let's walk this way.
Okay.
We'll head toward the laying hens.
Okay.
And one of the things that we did is originally when we had started, we had contemplated putting the laying hens and the meat chickens in the same pasture. And we learned very quickly, because everybody's got trial and error and everybody's got to kind of figure that out. We learned very quickly that we got to keep them, it's important and critical to keep them separate. And primarily because it's a biosecurity thing. The laying hens live longer, they're older, they have a stronger immune system. So because of that, having them next to the meat chickens was not such a good idea, because the meat chickens are 12, 14, max to 16 weeks typically on the pasture. And you've got older chickens with younger chickens, and you just don't want to have anything transfer. So that's one of the things that we looked at in designing. But at the same time, we needed to be efficient about being able to run our water lines, and feed and maintenance and moving the coops, because we move all of our coops. The meat chickens we move every 2 to 3 days, and the laying hens we move approximately once a week, depending on the weather. If we get a lot of rain that's too intense and the fields get too saturated, then what we'll do is we'll move them more frequently. Gotcha. So we're headting over We're going to head to the right, to this gate up here. Okay, gotcha. And so we're going to swing over behind us to the laying hens. Oh, nice. Awesome. So we'll do that. Let me field a question real quick. Oh, sure. See, B. Well says there's not much rice available in Texas. Do you think there would be a benefit to source it over their normal feed, considering the cost might be much more? I guess it depends on where they might be sourcing it from. Yes. So maybe just tell me about the advantages. You talked about the advantages of having it locally. Yes. Would it work for you if you had to ship it in from further away? It would work. From that standpoint, the rice or the rice-based feed would work no matter what. The question is the math. So whether or not the feed itself works is a separate question, I think, to the economics of it. Yeah. So you have to kind of run your numbers. Yeah. And you have to know whether or not it's going to work for you mathematically. Gotcha. So, and that's one of the things that sorry, the guys were going to come in and feed, and the tractor noise was going to probably be a little bit difficult for us, so I'm just going to... Whatever you guys need to do, we'll work with it. No, thank you. So, to the question of the economics piece. So really, when you're looking at your feed, my suggestion on that, and this is something that Manny and I processed before we made the decision to go forward with whatever feed that we decided to go with. So the brainstorm conversation really was, what do we have available to us here in Florida? Let's be realistic and let's be honest about the fact that we need to make sure that we have an accessible source of feed consistently. And so in order to do that, having to bring it in from too far was going to make it not cost effective.
Yeah.
And so that's how, we looked at the design, what we wanted to do, how we were going to be different, what our need was or how we wanted to feed. And then we looked at where do we source.
Gotcha.
So there's a lot of different, I think, equally important things, but from a feed standpoint, that's a critical component.
Yeah.
It really, really is.
Got a couple comments. Some people are noticing your very nice lush pastures.
Yes.
Especially in the middle of a drought in the rest of the country.
Yes.
And yeah, this is amazing. And guys, I don't know if you can see
Just
this.
watch so you don't slip.
But this looks amazing up here. Oh my goodness.
We're going to transition across a couple of these little gullies. So one of the things I want to point out, because when we first bought the property 10 years ago, we were not really sure, to be completely honest, we were not really sure whether or not the pasture design was going to be beneficial, because traditionally you have flat pastures. And so when we were out here, we're like, let's contemplate this. How can we really maximize these old grove ups and downs? And so when we went to design the mobile coupes, we looked at how we were going to be moving them, where we were going to be moving them, what size we wanted them to move them, what equipment we were going to have to move them. And so most of our pastures are anywhere from 10 to 30 acre pastures. So we needed to make sure that we had buildings that could handle the structure and the movement, but also when we look at the way this crests and goes down, with the amount of rain we get during rainy season, it turned out to be a blessing and not a curse. And that was so critical.
Because you're running them on the knolls,
Yes.
staying out of, so you don't get a lot of moisture.
No.
That's amazing. So,
Yes.
so I don't know if you guys can see, but this ground does slope like
Contours,
this. And
yeah.
is it because it was old citrus groves?
Yes.
Is that what it was?
Yes,
Gotcha.
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's an advantage for sure. You can definitely see you have nice drainage right here in the gullies of each of these.
And it's really been a blessing.
Yeah.
And so for that, I really, not knowing what your ground looks like where you are, really look at it look at the topography and say, how can this benefit me? Because unless you're going to come in and rework your entire site space, you're not doing that.
Yeah, it sounds like you made it work for you.
So.
Hey, Joe's Farm. How are you, Joe? Joe was our first Great American Farm Tour. If you guys haven't seen that video, you can go back and check it out. Thanks to the new subscriber that just subscribed. If you guys like this content and want to see more of it, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications. And this is amazing. You have, looks like a bunch of laying hens and ducks? Ducks,
Yes.
Cool.
So what you're seeing in front of you is several thousand laying hens.
Can we get a little closer?
Yeah, I just want to be careful, because what happens is the ducks, I don't know if you've been around groups of ducks like that, they get really kind of spazzy. So if we walk too fast or they'll just run, and I just don't want to spook them too much.
Yeah, just creep our way a little
no problem.
closer if that's okay.
So we do leave the waterers on a slow drip. That way we can make sure that we're respectful to the needs of the chickens as well as the ducks. And that way there's enough moisture down for the ducks to play in, but also so that they can all kind of scratch and peck, because bugs come up out of the water, and the chickens absolutely love that. So,
and you got a different looking design here than I've ever seen before too. Tell me about your design.
It's kind of an eclectic hodgepodge collection of farming. Compliments of Hurricane Irma and some redesign. What we did is we took, that over there, we actually, if we can,
let's go. You lead the way, I'll follow.
All right,
I'm good.
To get too muddy. Okay.
Nope.
So, duck egg.
Well, let me see that.
Duck egg.
Just a random duck egg laying in the pasture.
It's like, I joke about it, and people are like, well, it must be fun picking up eggs. I'm like, yeah, it's like Easter every single morning. So while it's a lot of fun, it's a little crazy because we've got them everywhere. But we pick
there's
up,
another one.
Yep, and we pick up
Literally.
several times a day for that purpose. So, okay, here on your left, and watch the holes because the ducks are digging.
Okay.
And the chickens too. So this was our original design. And when we first started with the meat chickens, you know, everybody suggested start slow, start, you know, with just a few. But yeah, we decided to start with 1,000. So we learned real quick, and very quickly as they got big quickly, that we needed to have a space for them. So we made an adjustment on that, and then with our laying hens, we went ahead and started with a smaller number of those. And this is kind of banged up from moving, but this was our original design for a mobile coop. And so the hens have kind of, we've put some extra buckets in here for collecting, and there's a hen in there. But I can't bring myself, it works still, it's still functional, and they love it. And so I don't want to get rid of it, even though it's a little banged up. And so we want to take advantage of all of our resources on the farm. But from this design, we also then looked at, since this survived a Cat 5 hurricane with just losing a panel, we're like, okay, so certain things we know are going to be more functional, and certain things are not going to be as functional in our geographic area. And so we really wanted to learn from that. So what we did is we went ahead and went with a Gable Roofing as well for the new builds, and we used steel I-beams. So this way we didn't have any issues with regards to weight and air flow and the aerodynamic component of the winds when they come around here.
So there's a steel I-beam that kind of keeps it weighted down?
Yes. Well, actually, if you look further down, the whole structure was built out of I-beams.
Oh, okay.
So,
I see, yeah, over there.
And so hence the reason why we've got some bigger John Deere tractors, because you need something with some power to move them.
So how often are you moving it?
We're moving these about once a week.
Great.
Once a week. And a lot of that also depends on how much the chickens and the ducks are eating the grass space around. Even with this many hens, they're going to eat it down, but there's no way they can eat all of it.
Nice.
So,
can we get a little closer?
Yeah, let's swing around.
With this camera, you usually got to get a little closer to see stuff in detail.
We have a proprietary blend on our feed, so
okay.
They
won't be able to.
Okay.
They won't be able to get your secrets from this far.
Sorry, my secrets. And then we use nesting boxes for the hens. So watch your footing. It's a little slow.
Yeah.
So these guys are ready to be moved. And they're going to, we should be moving those either later this afternoon or tomorrow morning. And then we'll do that, like I said, about once a week. If it gets super, super rainy, we'll move it more frequently. And if they haven't eaten enough of the grasses around it, we may let it sit for another couple of days.
Gotcha.
And really kind of go off that. But we do keep this pasture mode really well as well for the same purpose. Okay.
And how many of each species do you roughly have out here? Laying hens versus ducks?
I'd say on the laying hens, I think we're still around maybe 2,500 to 2,700 right now. And then with the ducks, I think we've got 150 to 200.
Awesome. Do you have any issues intermingling them? Do they?
No.
No problems?
No, we really haven't. And we run the Maremas, the livestock guardian dogs. So we really don't have too much of an issue with predator problems. And that's been a blessing as well. The ducks and the chickens actually seem to get along quite well.
Looks like yeah.
We haven't had any issues.
And then as far as are you harvesting the duck eggs?
We do.
And are they using the same nesting boxes, or where do you actually harvest them from?
Well, funny you mention that. The ducks as layers outside, we tend to do the duck hunt each morning. And so we do that. And we try to keep some area around this space so that there's little heads of grass so that they can lay in the heads of grass close to here. If not, we're walking the fence lines every day. We're walking the pastures every day. One of my honeydew items is to make a smaller paddock for the ducks, because as lovely as they are, it can take you an extra half an hour to an hour
to go find all those duck eggs.
Yeah, to find all the duck eggs. And while the eggs are amazing and they're wonderful and they taste delicious, it's not time efficient. And so that's one of the things we're looking at. But we're going to probably transition that as we get a little bit closer into the fall, where the grasses aren't growing as much, and we can decide where is going to be the best place for them to stay, so that we can do rotation with them, but for them to stay in a space that's a little bit smaller for us.
And then where's your market opportunity for your eggs?
Okay, so we send We ship our unwashed eggs around the country every week. So we have an online website, and we do e-commerce throughout the country that we ship nationwide. And then we have a farm store in Bonita, which is about an hour from the farm between Fort Myers and Naples, Florida. And so that's where we have our eggs over there as well at the store.
What's the website URL?
We are eatcirclecfarm.com.
Awesome. Eatcirclecfarm.com. Do you ship anywhere in the continental U.S.? Or
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
We ship to all 48 states. We shipped into Alaska, and we ship into Hawaii.
Awesome, guys. Yeah, so if you're watching and you want to try some of this stuff out, eatcirclecfarm.com. That's amazing.
You got it.
So cool.
So yeah, and it's one of the things that people ask me about the chickens is they're like, do you go out and gather every morning? And I said, well, we gather several times a day, but we have lazy layers. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, oh, no. My girls live on the farm, but they don't get up and start laying till like 10 o'clock, and they don't finish till like 3. I don't know what it is. I got the lazy laying group. So it's kind of funny, but that's the truth. They really start to lay later in the morning. And I don't know if it's just because they're just up moving around or if they're just rotating through the nesting boxes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nice. And then this is one of your guardian dogs here?
Yes, this is one of the, we have 3. And so this is, she's helping herself to an egg. This is Alexandra. And then we have Cleopatra. And then we'll meet Summer. Summer's with the sheep.
Nice. Cool.
All right. You want to head to the meat chickens?
Yeah.
Right.
This is a really cool operation you have going on here, Nicole. It's really quite impressive.
It's farm natural.
Yeah. And so I noticed that you kind of got like three tiers to each one here.
Yes.
Just real quick. I mean, can you just tell me real quick what each kind of tier is for?
Nothing special.
Nothing special, just extra cover.
Yep. We have nesting boxes in here. We have nesting boxes here. We have, that is just cover. This one here is just cover, and then the same thing within here. We do get our afternoon rains. So we're in rainy season. And so because we're in rainy season, pretty much like this afternoon, we're gonna probably get that humidity coming through, and we're gonna probably start getting rained on about 1:30, 2 o'clock. And it may rain for 2, 3, 4 hours at a time. It may be light, or it may be super heavy for half an hour.
Yeah.
So really what we wanna make sure is that they have sun coverage, and they have wind and rain coverage. And that way they don't get too much heat. But also more importantly, during the fall winter time, when we get those winter rains and those, I call it like that wet cold, which is different than just a rain. When it comes sideways, we want to make sure that we can pop the panels back up, and then they'll have that protection as well. And that's another thing with the design that we did. You can see on all the buildings, everything's mobile, and we just use aluminum. We just use aluminum sheets, and then that way, if it's super, super hot, we can raise, lower, or remove the panels, or we can put them on. So as we get into the fall and we're shifting from east to west versus north to south winds, we'll flip the panels.
Oh, okay.
And so this way, the design is really looking again at the topography of the land that we have, but also looking at the structure and the variability of the actual structure in itself. Awesome. So we don't have to change the actual structure. We just modify the siding.
Just take these panels off and move them where you need to go.
And the metal's pretty durable. If it breaks, you can recycle it. You can utilize it, and it's cost effective. So it meets several different check boxes.
That's awesome. And then you're running water lines just via hoses, and then you use these big cool feeders.
We do, and that's because they hold 200 to 300 pounds, so it makes it more time efficient for feeding. We use hoses because, as we all know, they burn out and wear out, and they're just easier to change. Sometimes you don't know where you want to put your lines, so we run lines up and down the core portion of the driveway, and we do that off of our well system, and then we can, wherever the buildings are, we just run the hoses to that junction point. And it's really helpful too, because if you think about that in context of repairs or a split line, or all of a sudden we have a bunch of water where it's not supposed to be, then it makes a quick fix.
Right.
Your hoses are $25 to $30. You can keep a handful of those on hand, and then you've got them if you need them in an emergency. And it's easy to move them around depending on where you want to move your buildings.
Yeah.
You don't have any solid structures in place that you now got to stop and re-tap and tee off and those kinds of things.
And just real quick, I want to point out your social media team. Say hi, guys. How are y'all?
Ryan,
you're good. Really important to point them out. Social media and marketing, big part of farming these days, right?
It is definitely a critical part of farming, but I would say even more so when you're vertically integrated. So when, in our case, we raise our livestock, we harvest our livestock, we butcher our livestock, we ship our livestock. So for people to be able to see that and understand that, you have to have a really strong documentation opportunity, videos, you coming, just for people to be able to see that. So, and to understand it.
Because you're not just selling a typical product here.
No.
Right? It's a specialty. It is. It requires a little bit of consumer education.
It does.
And people enjoy the learning about farms. People more and more want to know their farmer. They want to know their food. And what a great way to help share that, right?
Agreed. And it's a really nice way to bring them in to the intimate circle of the farm to really see how things go and work and how things are, moving in tandem with one another. And the beautiful part about technology these days is we can do that. And, so it's critical.
Quick question from our audience here. Kennedy Reynolds asked, do you ever use poultry netting or fences to keep your birds in?
Well, we did. And what we found is because we have this wonderfully rich, thick, dense grass, it grows so fast that when we use the Premier, this is all chicken love. And it's like this in pretty much all the pastures. And so what we found is the Premier fencing that we have worked great as long as the grasses were low. So for us, it didn't work as well. The other thing is because we're almost 200 acres, and we have 3 livestock guardian dog Maremas. Those Maremas need to be able to have access everywhere. And so for us, the poly fencing was actually an impediment for the dogs to guard. And what we did is we have it, we use it, like you can actually see it on the left side. We went ahead and took advantage of it here. And we did that. It's not on, but we did that because the ducks were sneaking out through the barbed wire.
Barbed wire, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're using it as an extra back fence?
Yeah, exactly. It's backup. But what we did do is instead of trying to figure out how to make the poly fence work, we went ahead and we've run 11 to 13 strands of barbed wire around the entire property.
Okay.
And so that way it facilitates the predation issues and deterring that, but it also gives us the ability to run small livestock to large livestock in the same pastures.
Awesome. So where are we headed to next?
So now we're going to go to the meat chickens.
Meat chickens. Cool. Let me ask you while we're walking over to the meat chickens. You mentioned predators. We always get a lot of questions about predators. Am I going to run across a giant giant snake in this pasture? Or what do you face as far as predators go?
Well, that's a really good question. So occasionally we have snakes with the laying hens, but not that often. Usually most of what we find down here are the black snakes. We do have some water moccasins on occasion, and we deal with them accordingly. But mostly what we have are some coyotes that go through, some bobcats, and then the occasional panther. But even though we're in the panther zone, I guess, we don't have them very often and haven't had them for a while because of the Maremas. So when you've got the dogs here, it's just a natural deterrent.
Did you say panthers?
Yeah. Florida panthers.
Wow.
So we don't get them a lot. When we first moved onto the property, before, and we'll talk about this when we get to the cows, we have donkeys that run with the cows as an extra layer of support and protection and an alarm. But we did lose a couple of calves 1 year to a panther.
Wow.
And we know it was a panther because the calves were old enough and heavy enough that it would have required something bigger than a little bobcat or coyote. And so, that was kind of we don't like it, we chalked it up to a nature tax.
Yep.
It's kind of one of those things.
It happens.
Yeah, it does. Hang on, give me 1 second, babe.
Yeah.
I got to reposition myself. We can walk in here. We'll show you these houses. And then the chickens, I think, are on the other side.
Okay.
We're at the end of one of our groups. So we still have some chickens on the property, the meat chickens that we're going to harvest next week. We've got one more group. And then we have another group we're going to harvest again in 2 weeks. Because one of the things this year that we didn't do was we didn't bring turkeys onto the property, which we usually do. So we'll be bringing some more of those back on later toward this year. We'll cut over to the left a little bit. And we'll bring those back on, so we'll have turkeys mid next year. And we kind of had to make that decision along with a lot of other farmers. You kind of had to look at your time, space, management, and resources with everything over the last couple of years. And so we made the decision not to bring the turkeys on this year.
And did you scale up in other areas instead?
Well, yeah, a little bit. We added more of the pigs to the property, brought in more piglets. And then what we're doing for the holiday is instead of having turkeys, we're going to have smoked or hams and legs of lamb and racks of standing rib roasts. And we're growing out several of our chickens to be much larger. They'll be 10, 11, 12 pounds. So there's an offset for that. And so we're going to come up with some neat things.
And folks can try that at eatcirclecfarm.com.
You got it. You got it. Eat Circle
so
C.
What are we checking out here?
Okay, so this is one. Watch your head on that one. So this is actually one of the buildings. So after we lost a couple of buildings in Irma, we looked at doing some redesign. And so what you're looking at is a stronger, heavier building. You can see we've got the I-beam on the back side to weight it down with some additional weight. Everything we've done is mobile, and everything we've done is tractor movable. So you can see to your left on the corner, you've got a little triangle, and that we have that on all four corners.
Right here.
Yep, and we did that because what we do is we put a heavy-duty chain on that, and we run that equidistant, and we pull the houses.
Awesome.
And so one of the things is the chicks come out. Our chicks are anywhere from 12 to 14 weeks, except for this bigger group, they'll be much longer. And so when they come out initially, we will teach them how to move with the palm fronds, because chickens don't like things over their head, and if you swish it, it makes that noise. And so what we do is, you can see here we don't have the bottom sheet on, or the bottom panel. And so we leave it like that because of the heat. This way there's a lot of flow, but also so the chickens can come and go 24/7. And so that gives us the opportunity to be able to swoosh in here. All the chickens go out of the house, and then we move the house. Okay, and we move all of the houses typically in the morning, roughly 7:30 to 8:30 in the morning. And the reason why we do that is because once that sun's come up and those chickens have decided, hey, I want to go out and eat grass, they go out of the house naturally.
Awesome.
And so that gives us the opportunity to go ahead and move the house with less chickens, so logistically it's smoother. It's, ultimately it's about keeping this as natural and stress-free as possible.
Yeah, that's great.
So yeah, so that works out really well. And then you can see in here, I know everybody uses a different model or design on their waterers. One of the things that we have found is we use the Rubbermaid, or the rubber waterers with an automatic waterer.
Right here.
Yep.
And then that's your automatic waterer.
Yep. And then we just put splitters here, and we've got spigots on all the buildings. And then this way, each building is self-contained or self-sustaining.
Really easy, and you just got these PVC racks. You can load them up there, lock them, and then move pretty easily after that.
Yes.
Very nice.
And it makes it really, really easy from that standpoint, because when we do put the cull feeders in here as well, and so we'll set that up in such a way that when the house moves, the feeder moves with it.
Oh, okay.
And so that way, again, it's less physical labor, and it's a little bit more coordinated, and it takes less time. So
do you hang them, or where do you set the feeders at whenever you move them?
They will bring them in here, and then we'll put them on a pallet, and then that way it'll slide with the house itself.
Oh, cool.
Okay, and so yeah, it's too heavy to pull off of here, but we do attach them because, just from a weight standpoint, not to hold off the roof line, but to help secure, so it adds that extra weight to the building itself. If we get some weird 40 to 65 or 70 mile an hour wind, then the house doesn't go and fly.
Nice.
So that's just an extra added bonus. So when you're looking at your housing and you're looking at your designs, you got to look at your space, whether you have guardian dogs or not, what your predation issues are and how you're going to move it. And what in our case, we have to deal with hurricanes. So we pre-plan for the worst case scenario. To the best of our ability. So that worked out really well.
No tornadoes around here, though?
Well, actually, when Irma came through, we had the hurricane, but then we also had a tornado on both the left and the right side of the farm. So it was really a bizarre situation. Wow. But that was specific. We don't necessarily get a lot of tornadoes.
Yeah, that's what
So-
we deal with in Arkansas mostly.
Is the winds.
Tornadoes,
Yeah, absolutely.
And so back here is where you
Yes.
have some meat birds.
This is where I do.
Okay, we're gonna go check that out. I'm gonna jump in here real quick and just say hi to everybody. If you are just joining us, welcome to Heifer USA's Great American Farm Tour. We are coming to you live here at Circle C Farm, just outside of Felda, Florida. And I'm joined with Nicole Cruz, owner-operator here at Circle C. And we got a lot to still show you guys. Keep watching. We're just really getting started. We got so much going on. It's an amazing farm. It's beautiful out here. You've got laying hens, got meat chickens, laying ducks, cattle, sheep. If earlier in the video we talked about how they're processing their own feed, and they're doing on-farm processing here. It's a vertically integrated farm. This has just been amazing. I hope you're enjoying it. This video will be available after the live stream is over as well. You can come back and watch it anytime. All right.
Okay. Alrighty, so we have arrived. Now, these guys are pretty big. And so this is one of the groups that we're leaving. There's probably 200 or 300 of them in here. And so we're leaving them for the opportunity for the holidays.
Okay.
And we're doing that specifically because we didn't do turkeys this year. So we wanted to make sure that we had some larger meat chickens. And as you can see, they are fat, happy, healthy.
Let's take a peek in here.
Yeah, absolutely. And they are very content. They are not stressed.
Yeah.
But they are huge.
They are big birds,
They are
absolutely.
super huge. Okay, and you asked about
your custom feed is
yes,
working.
Yes, it is. It's doing wonders. And then you can see here where we'll tie them so that they can drag with it. So for in this
Okay, yeah,
particular
you
one.
have them tied up here.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. And then that way when we pull the house this way, then it'll go right with it.
Cool. Keith Allen asked how big is your chicken house
coops?
here, the coop. Yeah.
Yep, these mobile coops are houses. Most of them are about 21 by 30, 32. And again, that goes back to the width of, this is all grow section. So we went back to the space and we decided to not go any wider than about 20 to 21, 22 feet max. And then that keeps us so that all the water drains down nicely because we have the length. And so what we do on these is we can start at one end of the pasture with a group, and typically, because you're only moving so far, they'll go to the other end and maybe come all the way back in one full time period out.
Okay.
Because of the way you don't have to move it as far.
Okay, you don't have to turn around and come back or whatever. You have
No.
enough to go one direction. That's
Correct,
great.
correct.
Nice.
But if we would need to,
Yeah.
we'll space them out so that usually what we'll space them out so that we don't get all the houses to the end of a row at the same time.
Yeah.
And so that way we've got them staggered and alternating so that if we do need to flip them around and take them, we can, and then we have a row in between.
Okay,
or that
great.
we have
yeah.
enough space in between.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, when we were at for Great American Farm Tour #1, if you guys haven't seen it, after this one, go check it out. We were at Joe Coopson's farm in Three Rivers, Michigan, and he was talking about his need to, because he didn't have quite the length,
Okay.
so he was talking about his chicken coops, how he's going to invest in a new design so he can actually move them sideways
Got it.
as well.
That's smart.
Yeah.
That's smart. And that really goes back to, you can do chickens on a really small space. You just have to look at your space and say, how is this going to be the most efficient? But when you do that, you got to sit down, and I'm an index card person, like for organization. So I put down all the different things, all the different moving parts, and then I'll move them around and say, okay, this goes with this, or I can't forget that, and how is this going to impact that? And oh, this is related to this one. You know, can we double dip on usage? You know, all of those things in looking at your designs and your functionality.
Awesome. How many did you say this will typically house?
Well, on our normal process and a harvesting run, we try not to put more than 500 in here. And if we can drop it back down, because we built more houses. And so if we can ideally do it, we'll keep about 400 per unit per house. And the reason being is we are so hot here that we want to make sure that they have enough space for all of them to come in out of the sun and to all be in here and be comfortable. And then that way everybody's got some shade cover.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this looks great. Really,
Yeah.
really awesome setup you have here.
Thank you. I will tell you that if you invest in the garage doors, they don't last very long.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that. You got some rolling garage doors here, but you don't recommend
They don't
them.
roll. They roll. I think they rolled the first year. They don't roll now.
Gotcha.
But you know, we can tweak them and adjust them if we really need to bring them down. But during the bad weather, but it's probably a swing door would have been a better investment on that.
Okay,
So, yeah.
and I think so. Keith Allen asked about your chick shed, but I think he was asking about your brooder. What is the brooder size? What was that?
Oh, the brooder size is 45 by 120.
Okay.
So it's pretty substantial.
And you said several thousand fit in
Yeah,
there, right?
we've held as many as 10,000 chicks in there.
Amazing.
Which is great, except that they get real big real fast.
Yes.
And then you're like, holy cow, we're running out of space. So we typically try to cap in that building at between 8,000 and 8,500, 9,000 max. 10's a little too much.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and we try to we keep them inside, like I think many other people do, until we're probably at 3 to 4 weeks, and then we have to look at their developmental stage. And are they ready to come out? Do they have the plumage to come out? Are they big enough not to become automatic hawk food? We understand nature tax, but I really don't want to donate any more than I need to.
And when they first come out, they still have access to these open sides, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
So
yeah.
what you see is what, no matter how old they are or what size they are, this is what they come out to.
Oh, that's amazing.
And then during
yeah.
the winter season, where the weather may be ugly, we'll go ahead and if we need to, we'll drop another panel down the bottom.
Oh, okay.
So if we're getting those weird north and south winds and rain, then we'll cover the north and south end and we'll leave the east and west sides open.
Okay.
But yeah, this is what you see is
What they
pretty
get.
much what they have 12 months a year.
Awesome. And
Yeah.
Joe Coupe, and talking about Joe,
Yeah.
he asked, and I think we covered it, but are you producing poultry year round?
Yes.
You don't take the summers off or anything?
No.
Gotcha.
No, we're producing poultry year round. What we have done this year is we adjusted our deliveries for our chicks in such a way that we had an extra month so that we had more time to dry more rice to put away for the rest of the year, because in general we're growing. And so we wanted to make sure that we were proactive in making sure that we had enough rice done and dried and stored for the rest of the year.
Cool.
Yeah.
Joe, you might need to consider a move. Southwest Florida. This is where it's at.
Hey, there's benefits of having a couple of months off.
Yeah. That's
Theoretically,
true.
you're never really off as a farmer. Date night is fixing spigots and picking up chickens and going and opening a gate that the calf shouldn't have figured out how to get to the other side of the gate for, but mama's on the others, so.
Well, where are we headed to next?
Okay, so actually, we're on this side. We can go this direction, then we'll go back to piggies.
Okay, that sounds great. So we're going to see pigs still. We got sheep coming.
Yes.
Got some
Donkeys.
cows up here with some donkeys. So
Yes.
you guys keep watching. We got a lot more to show you. We're live here at Circle C Farm just outside of Felda, Florida with Nicole Cruz, owner-operator here at the farm, and having a great time. It is so beautiful out here. Let me ask you while we're walking over here, Nicole, how did you get into farming?
I married into farming.
Married into it. Awesome.
I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, and we had horses, a couple dogs, cats, and I had a sister. So that was the extent of my agriculture.
Wow.
But my husband came from the Dominican Republic, and their family for several generations had sugarcane, cattle, hogs, rice, a creamery, all sorts of really cool, deep, rich agriculture background. And so when we met, we talked about that, and that was one of the other things. We're like, I wanted to get back into horses, and then one thing led to another, and then when you have horses, you have to have pasture, and you can never have enough pasture, even though horses don't need much pasture, but you can always talk yourself into, a couple hundred acres, why not? And then you're like, oh, something's got to eat that grass. Because this is not cost effective if all I'm doing is running a John Deere for diesel and nothing's eating it. So the kind of the humorous side. But we actually had a small farm in the Bonita Springs area, and we moved out here with a handful of cattle we had there. And then that's what kind of started this. And then we went into the sheep. Then the family discussed, because they had poultry in the Dominican as well. And so we discussed the poultry side, and then that we started with eggs. And then you know how people are, whether it's family, friends, people that are you're selling eggs now. Okay, so if you have eggs, you have chickens. So if you have chickens, I want meat. And I'm like, but they're not the same breed. Oh, I don't care. I want meat. I'm like, okay, wait, stop, time out. I can't, so then we talked about bringing in the broilers. And then we ran the math, and we made sure that it was going to be able to pay for itself and be cost effective and that kind of thing. And so then that grew.
Yeah.
And then it was, well, you have chickens. Do you have duck?
Wow.
Do you have turkeys?
You started small. You started with laying hens.
Yes.
As your market opportunities grew and your customer demand grew, you grew with it. That sounds like a pretty, common theme that I've seen at a couple of farms that I visited. I know Joe Coupe started out the same way, started out with laying hens, and just as his customers wanted meat. So if you guys are out there watching at home and you're thinking, what a beautiful farm, I know a lot of our viewers would love to be able to do something like this. Take a look at what these other farmers are doing. Look at their path. Follow, success leaves clues, guys.
Yeah.
So pay attention to how they got to where they're at and consider if that might be the right way for you to start as well. So tell us about what we're looking at here.
So what do we have? So right here we have a group of our mama cows and some calves. We have another group in another pasture of our steers and a couple of our heifers. And so this is several of these are heavy bred. So we calf year round. We leave our bull in year round. He's back there. He must be courting one of the ladies as we speak. He's new to us. That is 50. He is our beef master bull. And so we previously had a Brahma bull, and as incredible and well bred as he was a little bit large for our ladies. And we lost a calf or two, and we had to pull a calf or two, and we decided that he was not necessarily going to be a good match for our beef program at that point. And so that was how we made the decision to make an adjustment. And so now we have beef master on all of these ladies, and we've got our first round of calves, which is really exciting because it's going to be similar quality in the meat, but it's also going to be a little bit more ease of calving for our cows. And so we do, like as many people do, we pull up our heifers and we bring them up so that we can continue to grow our herd and do things like that. So, that's just part of this process. But these ladies and gentlemen are part of our rotational pasture management system. And so the sheep, I think, are walking the back line, so hopefully they'll join us soon. But that's what we have.
And do you rotate the sheep with your cows?
Yes and no. So sometimes we do, sometimes they're together, sometimes they're completely separate. What makes that decision is a couple things. First and foremost is, are we lambing? If we're lambing, then we will not put our cattle with our sheep. It's too stressful for the guardian dog. It's too stressful for the sheep. It's just too stressful all the way around. We tried it. We made that mistake. And so that was a very quick change out once we realized that was not ideal. So once the baby lambs get big enough that they're, I'd say, a good month. And we leave our ram in with our sheep as well. So we lamb on every gestational cycle, so they're 5 months. So, 3 times every 2 years. So once they typically, all of our sheep, we've got about 200 head right now, and we're growing that. So once they start lambing, then we have about a 4, maybe 5 week window between the first lambing and the last lambing. And so we give them the additional time, and then we can fold them back in with the cattle.
Gotcha.
And then that helps with pasture management and grazing, because the cattle eat at different heights and levels of grass as compared to the sheep.
Yeah.
So it's a good symbiotic pasture grazing model, especially if you don't necessarily have a lot and you want to have like 20 sheep and 10 cows. Just make sure that you can separate them at some point for lambing. Yeah. Because that's your safety time.
Yeah, we usually, at Heifer Ranch, where we film a lot of our content for this YouTube channel, we run our sheep right behind our cattle just to kind of marry that symbiotic relationship. But, our paddocks usually are a lot smaller just because we're doing a higher density mob grazing. We don't quite have as much grass as you do, so we have to take advantage of it that way. But if you guys want to learn more about, grass-fed and finished sheep, check out some of our videos on our channel there. I want to say hi real quick to Bjorndi from Norway. Thanks for joining us. hey to Cambodian Homestead. I've been to Cambodia. I've spent several months there, and this kind of reminds me a little bit of Cambodia, actually, just the way you have these big open pastures, tons of grass, lots of rice, the way the cattle look. So Cambodian Homestead, I hope you are enjoying the content. They say they're learning so much, and they are raising 1,000 sheep there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that is awesome. Maybe we'll come and do a farm tour at the Cambodian Homestead next.
Along the lines of the sheep, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want to mention this. We learned the hard way. Don't run donkeys with sheep when you have lambs. And I'll be very honest, we made the mistake. We were newbies to having the donkeys, and they're great and they're fantastic with the cattle. But we had a ewe that lambed, and she had twins, and she put them at the base of one of our palm trees. And we went ahead and opened the pasture because we thought everything was going to be okay, and we ended up losing both of those lambs because the donkeys identified them.
Oh, yeah.
And then thought they were a hidden threat at the base of the tree in the grass. And so that was
So don't run donkeys with
don't run your donkeys with
during
your
lambing
sheep. Yeah,
season.
during lambing, because the donkeys do what they're bred to do. And so I want to share that honestly so that people don't make that mistake.
Quick question here from, let's see, from Addicts Ranch.
Yes.
They asked, what breed of cattle did you choose and why?
Well, we have a little bit of an eclectic collection.
I noticed, yeah.
For a variety of reasons. Some of them came over with us. The one white face over there, she's been with us for a very long time. When we first started, we started acquiring quality cattle from the people around us that we knew. We also went to one of the University of Florida cattle sales in North Florida, and we were able to get several mature 5-6-year-old cows that were out of their breeding program. So we knew what their genetics looked like. We knew what they were going to be able to pass along. So we picked up those, and those were mostly like 5/8, 7/8 Angus with some Brahma. So, a little bit of a Brangus cross. We've got a couple that are full Brahma, and we have a couple that are Beefmaster Angus crosses as well. And basically the primary thing that we looked at was genetics. We looked at the durability of those breeds out here in 100-degree weather, because that's our reality. We don't vaccinate our cattle. We actually don't vaccinate anything. We don't have to maintain, and by that I mean, like in quotes, we don't maintain our livestock in the sense of we don't have to do aggressive or excessive deworming. We are down here in one of the wettest, hottest places, but we've been very fortunate because of the rotation model. You're keeping your feed over feces rate is like none.
And that's where your problems come in, right?
Correct. Yeah. That's where you end up with your coccidiosis. You end up with all of your other bacterias and things like that. So, and you can see their skin is healthy. They're happy animals. They're stress-free. So, we also looked at the breeds that were going to produce a quality meat off of pasture finishing and true grass finished, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
And so that was really important for us, and we wanted to make sure that we had proven breeds so that our EPDs were good. We, like I said, we don't vaccinate.
And EPD is?
So your birthing, your data.
Right.
I'm a data nut.
Good. And so, all good farmers should be.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be, and if you're not, then you're probably losing more than money. And so we're really conscientious about, kind of where I mentioned a few minutes ago, where we had the Brahma bull, and he was incredibly well pedigreed. He was just too big.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to lose cows, and we didn't want to lose any more calves. So we looked at this bull and we said, what is his birth? What is the size of the calf that he throws? What is that birth size? Is it coming out in that 50 to 60 pound range, so that they're just coming out and then they double up within a week or two? And that's what we were looking at.
Gotcha. Well, cool. Hey, thanks for that great question. Where are we going to head to next?
The sheep, it's going to be a little hard to see the sheep.
They're way back there.
Yeah, we may have to wait a little bit till they venture forth.
That's all right.
So that may take a little bit, because typically they will go around the back side of that pond and hill, and they'll come around. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and we can walk back past the meat chickens. And then let's go to the piglets.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, awesome.
We'll take a couple of questions.
Absolutely.
While we walk here. Nidra Williams says, thank you so much. This is great information. Thank you, Nidra, for watching. Okay, so John Isaacs asked, in your pasture management, are you putting nitrogen or phosphorus on your fields on a regular basis?
Nothing other than chicken poop.
Gotcha.
So we truly fertilize with chicken manure.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. You can see the results that we're getting.
Yeah, I know that's tons of nitrogen. Do they also add phosphorus? I'm not sure. I just don't know.
We don't add anything.
Okay.
We don't add anything. And what actually along that line, that's a really great question, because no matter where you are in your farming experience, you can always go pull a soil sample. And so you grab your soil sample, you send it out, it comes back and it tells you where are your hot spots.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where might you need to target. There may be places that you really need to dump that chicken manure and really let it sit and compost down. And then there's other places where you may not need as much. And that may play into where do you start your mobile coops.
Yeah.
And you know, so those, again, it goes back to how do all of your moving pieces and parts integrate?
Yeah. I know that's what we do too at Heifer Ranch is, you know, we look at our soil samples and say which pastures need those amendments the most, and you know that's where we'll run our chicken coops depending on at the beginning of the year and keep them in those pastures. Another question from Keith Allen. What about ticks? Do you ever have tick issues out here?
We typically do not. I found a couple on the dogs. Occasionally we'll find them on the sheep because we're able to get up closer to them. Mm-hmm. Don't find too many of them on the cattle when we do a health check.
Nice.
We send them through our working pen a couple times a year and as needed.
Gotcha.
You know, that kind of thing. But our goal is if we don't have to put hands on them, then we're reducing or alleviating the stress associated with just management with them. So if we can go out and do an eyeball check on the ATV, then we'll do that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, we'll bring them back through the working pens. And so yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead.
So we have a group of ewes in here, and so we can actually catch them. Let's you know what? Let's go over to this gate so we can angle this way.
Okay. And this is your corral system here?
This is our working pen. And so I have a background in education. I spent 20 years teaching and administration and a variety of different areas.
No wonder you're so good at this.
So yeah, I've had a little bit of practice, as well as a couple of other industries. And I mentioned I'm kind of a data freak. And so when Manny and I were putting pen to paper, you know, a lot of times the working pens typically are just thought to be for cattle. And we're a multi-species farm, so that didn't work for us. You can't just design for one species, it has to be universal. And because we are a USDA inspected facility, we harvest our own livestock and we offer that service for other farmers as well.
Right here on the farm.
Yep, right here on the farm. And so we needed to have a space that was usable for a lot of different things. It's kind of, my analogy is when you're in elementary school, the cafeteria is used for everything. So the working pen has to be universal to be used for everything. And so what we do or how we designed it was we went bigger than what we thought. So we went 100 by 200, and we have 4 alleywayed pens in there, and we have a sweep tub. And the way we did the sweep tub was actually with 1x6. We softened the 1x6 so we could bend it. And so on the right side here, you're actually, and we'll see it when we walk around toward the pigs again, but you're going to see that that's on a really nice, gentle slope. And so that allows us an ease of use and reduced stress on the livestock and working.
And that's part of the temple-granted method, right?
Exactly. So, you know, growing up or spending 20 plus years in education and really being around a stress-free environment and working with individuals, both adults and children, and, you know, if you look at the environment and you create an environment where you're proactively reducing all your trigger points, then it's most likely going to be very, very functional for both the animals and for the humans.
And so that's a low-stress animal handling technique. And what is it? Do you want to go ahead and walk around?
Yeah. We'll walk around the side, but I wanted to show you this because it comes around here, and then we work through here and then into the chute.
Gotcha.
And then we've got an alleyway down there, and again, along with Temple Grandin's designs, we have angled lines, which we'll see from the other side.
So you got your squeeze chute right there, and they can run through.
Yes.
And we'll check that side out in just a second, guys.
And then we use this for cattle, pigs, sheep, and goats.
Awesome. So, and this is centrally pretty much, it looks like it's centrally kind of located so you can easily access all your paddocks.
It is.
And that was intentional, I take it?
Yes, and as you turn around and you just kind of pan back, you can see that what we've designed is all of these roads lead into the working pen.
Yeah.
So that way we can just open a gate.
Yeah.
The cows know where to go.
Yeah.
The sheep know where to go. We don't have herding dogs. We've got a German Shepherd and Maremas.
Yeah.
We've taught her. I mean, she knows how to do it, and she's very good at it. But she's not truly a trained herding dog. And so, you want me on that side?
Yeah.
And so, that's one of the things we looked at too. Is originally, we didn't know what size we were going to be. Manny and I didn't say, oh yeah, we want to sit down and we want to be at this number of hundred of head of this and species and that species. We just kind of started out like, hey, this is what we want to do, and we're going to do it, and we'll learn as we go, kind of a thing. But at the same time, we also looked at our physical space, and we wanted to make sure that we created a dynamic that he and I could work our livestock without anyone else.
Gotcha.
And the principle behind that goes back to what we talked about in the building of the mobile houses. If there was an emergency and either I was alone, he was alone, or we were here and didn't have any of our other team, how could we move everything?
Gotcha.
How could we secure our livestock? How could we, address an emergency? And so if you look at the worst case scenario, you will typically be prepared for everything you need. And I think that that's a critical thing too. And it's not necessarily a money preparation, it's just a thought and process, procedural type of thing.
And you said you guys are 10 years into this, right?
Yes.
So this is what you can accomplish in 10 years. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And we're 5 years with the facility. So I would say really the bulk is, we brought cattle and sheep on in 2012 and 2013, grew the sheep until 14, and then in 14 and 15 started with the hens.
Wow.
So really it's only been 5, 6,
with
7.
Everything. That's amazing. That's such great progress, and starting from zero farming knowledge too. Awesome.
Yeah, it's
Well, let me ask you. You talked about additional labor. What kind of team do you run here on this farm?
We have a couple of guys outside that are separate from our inside butchering team. So all in all, with Manny and I, we're looking at about 10 people.
But that includes your processing crew?
Correct.
Okay, and not including the processing crew, just running the livestock?
Just out here, there's 4 of us.
Okay, working full time?
Yeah.
And do you or Manny have off-farm jobs, or
no?
I didn't think so. I have to clarify that one. So yeah, guys, farming full time, crew of 4, running all of this together. They can run it by themselves if they absolutely need to. Such great systems in place, such great planning in place. So what are we checking out here?
So here we've got, you're gonna probably jump. We have a couple of cattle that have come in for harvesting. As again, I mentioned that we provide a service. So we've got a couple of cows that we're gonna be harvesting in the next few days.
Okay, so these are from other farms?
Yep, they are, and that's why they're here, because these are animals that came off of range space. And so ours are accustomed to being around our working pens and our working space. These animals are not, because they're not ours. And so as a result, they've got plenty of space here, and we've got the round bale to keep them busy and make sure that they stay happy and content, and then they'll go through the butchering process over the next few days to a week.
Very cool. That's so great that you're able to offer that service to your community, and I'm sure building all of those relationships with other farmers in your areas has really helped with just many things.
Yes, it has, and it's allowed us the opportunity to grow what we're doing, but to also follow through on the commitment that Manny and I made when we first sat down and talked about this. Is we truly believe in being stewards of the land and its people. And so by being respectful to the animals and being able to offer an opportunity to other farmers, then other farmers, even if it's just for their own freezer meat, they're able to raise their livestock in the manner to which they are comfortable and accustomed to, and they can have their meat back in their freezer, getting back everything they brought, because that's the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah, we visited a really great farm just outside of San Diego, California. If you guys haven't seen that video, you can check it out on our YouTube channel. It's called Fighting for Food Justice, and the owners and operators of that farm talked about how regenerative agriculture is more than just regenerating land. It's about regenerating communities as well. Yeah. And I think you hit that point right on the head with that.
Well, and for us, we're doing a lot. I mean, clearly, you look around here and we're doing a lot every single day. But there's a certain point at which you can just only physically, humanly do so much. And so by establishing those relationships, we're able to work with a very select, small group or number of farmers in which, for example, are piglets. So we work with a couple of farmers that raise some amazing piglets. And so by working with them, they don't have the space to do the grow out. they don't have it. They don't have the trailer structure. They don't have, it's a lot to handle a 200, 300, 400 pound hog.
So you guys aren't farrowing,
correct,
but you work with other farmers
correct,
that are,
yes,
and then you're finishing.
Yes.
Awesome.
And so this is to us, this is a genuine win-win. I mean, this is what it's supposed to be about when you're talking about family farming and agriculture.
Yeah.
And so they can do their thing, and their children can work in their 4-H programs and the youth and ag programs, which we also support with the fairs around us and harvesting animals from those. And so that is just the ultimate, to me, win-win, because they're doing what they love. They pass them off to us at, 8, 10 weeks, depending on the piglet, and then we take them from there.
Yeah.
And it's just an amazing opportunity. And like, for instance, this group of piglets, they're on this fabulous pasture.
All right. So yeah, let's shift gears and let's talk about pigs. Tell us about your setup here, your operation, and how's this working out?
Alrighty. So over here in front of us, we have a group of piglets, which are accustoming themselves to.
Can we go in?
Yeah, we can, to the electric fence. And so they are, they learned real quick when they got here about the electric fence. Watch yourself.
Yep.
And so this is working out really well, because this is going to give an opportunity for us to be able to expand where we can move them.
And just while we're here,
yeah,
high tensile electric fence. This is what this is your training pin, more or less.
Exactly.
So you're training them to this electric fence.
Yes.
Using a solar charger up there. Very nice.
Yep. To make it easy and simple, and since we have sun year round, why not use the solar? But I do have a really, really long extension cord as an emergency backup.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So again, you got to plan and prepare just in case. So we've got them in here. It's a multi-strand, as you can see on the left side. We've got a lot of barbed wire, and we did that because with our rotation model, every pasture has to have the opportunity to have every species in it.
Yeah.
And so if you plan in your setup that way, then you can have this pasture, which is great right now for pigs, but then you can turn around and you can see they've torn it all up.
I'm actually just noticing your soil here is so sandy.
Yes,
I mean,
well, in some parts.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, in some parts. And then in other parts, we'll have this really great soil.
Yeah.
So it's really, it's kind of interesting that way.
Seems like it works.
It does. It really, really does. And they're happy. I mean, you can see how stressed they are.
Oh my gosh, look at this pig's life over here. Wow, just chilling by a palm tree with a little sprinkler going on here in sunny Florida. Man, you got any more room for
I didn't
humans?
realize they had such a spa going on over here.
Yeah, this is amazing. Look at this wallow. That is a Florida wallow if I've ever seen one. That's so beautiful.
So we have the waters on timers, so that we're being conscientious about the our water use, and then this keeps them cool, obviously. And then we've got all of the space for them to do their thing, and as they get a little bit bigger, then we'll go ahead and we'll teach them how to walk graciously through the front gate, and then we'll move them into another pasture. And then at that point, we'll really be able to utilize the electric fence.
Nice. And I see over here you got the same feed blend. Yep. Is that the same one?
It is.
So what all species are you using that feed blend for?
Poultry and pork. No sheep, no cattle.
They're all eating the grass?
Yep, they're just grass.
Great. So if you guys are just joining us, go back and watch the beginning of this video, because at the very beginning we talked about Nicole's custom blend proprietary feed mix that they are actually blending and making here on the farm from local rice farms that they're sourcing here in the area. It's really fascinating. You can go back and check that out. Very cool.
Yeah. And we have not had any issues with this number of piglets either. We try, we're careful to make sure that we don't overdo them. And then as they're becoming accustomed to the electricity, then when we go into another pasture, like the one right behind us, we'll be able to turn them out into more space and really utilize the pastures to their fullest extent for the pigs, because it'll be easy with the electricity.
Gotcha.
Because we can just, keep moving it. There's minimal boundaries.
Sorry, pigs, didn't mean to invade your personal space. You can go back to the shade. We'll walk away. I just wanted to see your little custom. You got a water over there, water tank.
Yep. And then for pigs, you know, you've got the pig waterers, and then they'll destroy everything and anything they get a chance to. So everything's raised, elevated, and again, we talked about having the emergency hoses on hand. We keep them especially for the pigs.
Very cool.
Because they'll grab them, pull, and you know, rip them right out.
Yeah, I've lost a few boots to pigs and a few pairs of pants, and they get a little curious. These guys are nice though. They're not nipping at me. Thank you very much, pigs.
We try to have them representing us well when, you know, people come to the farm.
On their best behavior.
Yes, of course.
Very cool. So, and you got a few different breeds back there. You just work with whatever local suppliers have at the time.
We have a couple of farms that we work with because we visit and make sure that who we're working with is in accordance with the same beliefs that we have along the whole spectrum. So their animal handling and animal husbandry needs to be the same, what they're feeding, that the fact that they're on pasture. You know, we're not looking at anything that's been in a confined space. You know, those are important things for us, so they have to be carried all the way from the beginning all the way through. That's important.
Yeah.
And so we do that, and then we have a couple of the Yorkshire crosses, and then we've got some of the heritage breed crosses as well. As you know, the heritage, I mean, pastured pork is amazing.
No, it's my favorite. Of all the proteins that we raise, the pork is where I go to first. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I have to temper myself. We do a couple pigs a year just for us. And the reason why I have to do them just for us is because the selfish side of me is that I really like that belly.
Absolutely, yes. And the jowl is just, oh man.
And but not only just that, I mean, you know, there's pork, I mean, everything. And then we'll take we'll take a shoulder or a butt and we'll throw it on the Traeger and we'll smoke it out for 10, 12 hours. And
I mean, I noticed a quality difference in all the pasture proteins that we raise. But there's just something, I don't know, there's just something about the pastured pork that is totally different than what you find in the stores.
Well, and the structure of the fat, you know, that combination.
It comes out like butter.
Yes,
I mean, it literally.
It does.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, because people, you know, we are a niche market. We are a higher end product. It costs what it costs to produce the product consistently with what we do. We're not willing to compromise on quality of anything that we're doing for the dollar. We have been very conscientious about that with everything that we've all been going through. And, you know, we're trying to make sure that our proteins are attainable to as many people as possible without any compromise to how we're doing what we're doing. And because you do, you know, it's on my t-shirt. I've used this as in marketing. We talked about this, social media marketing. You taste the difference, you will feel the difference.
Absolutely.
And so that is the absolute truth. And
just real quick, I want to just jump in here before we.
I've got another group of pigs, bigger pigs here.
It's got a bigger group of pigs here. So after they leave the training paddock, they'll come to a paddock like this.
Well,
we've
got a couple of different groups going on. We're in the process of setting up more electric. So we've got this group in here for right now, but then the field behind you, or behind them, where we've got some of our steers and a couple of our heifers in
back there by the palms.
This whole space right here, we're going to go ahead and run some more electric line, because again, go back to what we talked about with the working pen. The working pen is universal in its use. So we can bring the pigs out the gate there, walk them down the alley here, bring them through, walk them around to the outside of that, and then we're going to create another alley similar to this on the other side, and then have the electric fence spaces. And then so that as we're expanding and growing the pastured pork side of it.
And then you can easily get to the corral from that other pasture over there.
Exactly, because you know, pigs can be a little obstinate on occasion, and so we want to make it as easy on them or as stress-free as possible on them when we're bringing them in for a harvesting process. And also, all of our livestock is used to working around the working pen. So to take them and move them around the working pen is not stressful because they're used to being around it. So you're not pushing adrenaline through them. You're not getting them all excited and spooked that they're in a place that they're not used to.
That makes complete sense. So real quick, Nidra Williams, thank you for joining us. She came in a little late and she asked about how many acres. Did you say 200 acres that you're working?
Just under 200 acres.
And then she also said that she's in North Florida and she's in the startup phase and would like to know if you offer tours here for other farmers.
We are not at this time. We are doing, we have several videos that we're putting together to do a farm tour video
Like this
series.
one?
Yes, very much like this.
Cool.
We are a small team. We're dealing with the similar things that other people are in small businesses.
Yeah.
So, and we also have a couple of forward-thinking projects for the farm. So we do have our farm store in Bonita, which is about an hour away from here. But between that farm store and the farm, there's still many other people that are looking to purchase our meats that maybe wouldn't travel into the store in there. So one of the things that we've got on the planning is to put a farm store here at the end of we own all the way to State Road 29. And so we're in the process of sketching out some plans to put a farm store here.
Oh, cool.
And so because of those projects going on right now, I've had to make decisions on where my energies can be.
Yeah, makes complete sense.
So
Well, Nidra can watch this entire video,
Yes.
and I didn't know you're joining us late, but if you go back to the beginning after this live stream is over, this video will be available on the Heifer USA YouTube channel indefinitely, so long as Nicole lets us keep it up. And
as long as you'd like.
You guys can go back and check out this live tour anytime. Okay, where to next, Nicole?
So I just noticed something. In that back corner beyond the ATV, we have the sheep that have come into that corner.
Yep.
And then I don't know if you can see it with the sunlight, but there's a trailer that's right in front of that water tank. And that was actually up here this morning, and the guys moved it. So if we head that direction, I want to show you that trailer.
Okay, yeah, let's check it out.
Okay, so we can go back through here.
You lead the way, I'll follow.
Yeah, perfect.
So and I know sheep are, at least on our ranch, they are the more skittish of all the animals, so hopefully we won't scare them away too much.
I think if we take this angle, we can sneak up on them from around the side of the palm tree.
Okay, you lead, I'll follow, and then which trailer did you say?
We're gonna go straight over past the purple ATV. It's one of the trailers that we use for our chicken harvest. So let's talk about the other side of what we do. We have our own on-farm, USDA inspected.
Which is amazing.
Abattoir.
I mean, talk about a complex operation on top of a complex operation.
It is. I sleep about maybe 4.5 hours a day. But again, it goes back to, people are like, why did you do that? And I'm like, well, because we kind of had to.
Yeah, processing is a huge bottleneck. For anybody who's watching that doesn't know, having access to a high quality local processor in your area that you don't have to truck species to hundreds and hundreds of miles and lose a lot of your margin is a huge challenge. And so by being able to create your own infrastructure here and offer that as a service to other farmers is pretty incredible. We're doing something similar. We're not doing our own processing, but we are working with a local processor, investing in them, helping scale their operations so that they can serve us better and more customers as well.
Right.
Yep.
Well, and that was the critical issue for us was, okay, our closest poultry, when we first started, our closest poultry facility for harvesting was an hour away. So we looked at that. We did it the first time. It didn't work out very well. It was a flop, not on our end, but the processor had a team that was not as skilled as they needed to be.
Yeah.
And so we lost 1,000 chickens, and that was our first run.
Oh, man.
And so the reason why I'm very candid about that is it was a very painful learning experience.
Yeah.
Because it was our first group. We learned so much and what to do and not to do. But then when we finally got them to processing, we're like, oh, thank God. Okay, we got them here. We can get them in a package. We can sell some of them, maybe recoup back some of the monies, that we've put out, plus learn some things. And then it didn't go very well. Yeah. And so then we learned the USDA side of when it doesn't go so well, what happens? Yeah. And so we were like, oh, crap. Okay, so what's our next choice? So then we looked for other facilities. Well, the truth of the matter is the next closest facility was 2.5 hours away. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, this is just not realistic. And then the state of Florida, us being in a very agriculture-rich state that truly supports family agriculture, they had put into legislation something called the Limited Poultry and Egg Permit. So that availed farmers up to 20,000 meat chickens a year.
On farm.
Yes. The
non-USDA,
correct.
Sell within state lines.
Correct, sell within the state. And I was like, okay, well, shoot, this is great. So we then looked at investing in the equipment so that we could do our own on-farm processing. Yeah. And so once we did that, and of course there is a learning curve with that. And so once we did that, then we were like, okay, all right, this makes sense. It's cost effective. It's really great for the birds. You know, we were able not to have to increase pricing so much because of transport and the labor for that and the drive, you know, all of those things that go into it. But at the same time, there's a whole lot that you don't even think about.
Yeah.
You know, you got to figure out what equipment you need and what size you need, and do you have your electrical phasing? Do you need single phase? Do you need 3-phase? Do you need packaging? How are you going to do your chamber bags? You know, I mean, labeling, label compliance. Like, there's just
it's a whole nother business
I work with
model.
an alphabet of governmental agencies every single day, all day long, and so it is. It's a lot of information to take in, but it's also a very steep learning curve, because when you're dealing with food and food safety to the public, there is no margin of error. There is no, oops, we'll fix it next time. No, that doesn't happen.
It's oops, your doors are closed.
Yes, or it's oops, that chicken goes into the trash, or it gets cut up for the dogs. You know, it's not, oh, well, maybe. No, that's just not, and I'm so neurotically OCD about food safety that that's just not an option.
Yeah.
And so that's a good thing. But again, when you go and you take all of these responsibilities, you know, I look at people like, oh, well, you're just a farmer. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm just a farmer. Yeah. Okay. So what do you do before 9 o'clock? Because I've done an entire day's work before 9, and you've just gotten up to have coffee. So, you know, we have nice dialogue about that. But it's really, when you look at what we do, one thing is raising the livestock. The other thing is harvesting.
Yeah.
Then we have an online e-commerce business component.
Wow.
And we have a local retail farm store, which is not just our meats. It's this fabulous little 759 square feet of this incredible little box of love with all of our meats and our honeys and essential oils and pastas and cassava bread, you know, just all sorts of great stuff that falls in that circle of what do you want to eat healthy, be healthy, you know, those types of things. So, you know, we're running 4 simultaneous businesses that are all integrated. And in a domino effect, if one falters or falls a little off skew, you can have a real big problem.
Yeah.
So you have to be on 24/7, 365.
That's awesome.
And that's, it is, but people got to know that.
You do.
You got to know this. I mean, I'm brutally honest. When I get phone calls to the farm all the time, I am more than happy to take the couple of minutes and say, listen, I've only got 5 or 6 minutes because I'm running between.
Yeah.
But these are the things you need to know. Let me answer some questions. And this is you need to look at your numbers, because your numbers don't lie.
Yeah, that financial training, running numbers,
critical.
It's a business. It's not
critical.
just farming. So talking about...
Well, let's sneak to the sheep real quick before they leave.
Oh, okay,
and then let's jump back to
because I
want to talk to trailer.
We're going to come back to this, guys, because I think this is going to help a lot of farmers.
Yes, and I will happily share about my again, OCDs about what is a non-negotiable on this farm.
All right, sheep. So real quick, we did have a question. I think it's a good place to start.
Okay.
Debbie Weathersby, how many sheep do you have on your farm?
We have about 200, maybe closer to 225 or 250. It's kind of hard to count them sometimes when they're in motion. But we have a nice group of lambs this year. And so we're working with all of our females, and then we cull out appropriately, and we harvest out our males. And so we run our own breed. We actually cross the Florida Cracker and Katahdins and white-headed Dorpers.
Okay, wow, that's totally unique.
It is.
Yeah.
And again,
we're crossing Katahdins and Dorpers right now and testing that out, but you got a 3-way cross going on.
We do, and we did that because we got together with the Meat Sheep Alliance of Florida, and we got to meet some really amazing people. And those people very givingly shared the pretty and the ugly of raising sheep in Florida. So when we first started in 2012 and 2013, we actually had as many as 400 head of sheep here. And again, like we did the 1,000 chicks to begin with instead of 50 or 100. We learned a lot from that process. It was an interesting process, and the biggest thing that we took away from that is, and I've mentioned it before with the cattle, if you do not get a breed that is appropriate for your geographic location, you will end up with a lot of dead, or you will end up with a lot of maintenance. And we don't maintain our sheep in the sense of they don't go through the chute every couple of weeks. We're not out deworming every few weeks, every 4 to 6 or 8 weeks. They get dewormed just prior to the lambing season, and that's because approximately 2 to 3 weeks before lambing, their systems are at their most vulnerable as far as the ewes. So we will give them that extra support that way. We have found a couple different ways of doing that. So when we deworm on this property, we typically use diatomaceous earth. We also put apple cider vinegar in the water of all of the livestock. We use various essential oils, and we also use a little bit of Castile soap.
Awesome. And so the breeds that what qualities did you look for in the breeds? And is it the Florida Cracker that it has the hair, the wool?
It's a combination. Yeah. So you're going to see true hair sheep, and that's your Katahdin white Dorper line more so.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have your Florida Cracker leaning side, which is which are the ones here with all the woolly on them.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And the wool keeps them warm and cold. Everything on this property always has shade.
Yeah.
That is a non-negotiable. Everything always has to have shade to get to, no matter what species.
Yeah.
And so in this case, the reason why we chose these breeds was because, very specifically, the Florida Cracker, our original bloodline for our flock sire, was, we called him Porter, and his bloodline went back traceably 200 years here in Florida. And why that's critical is we don't have foot rot issues. We don't have worming issues. We don't have animals just dying at random from parasites. I mean, we lose an occasional sheep a couple times a year, but that's just natural. You know, it's just kind of part of the farming process since we don't artificially maintain our livestock.
Yeah.
But in this case, we wanted a breed that could carry its own. We wanted a breed that didn't have to be maintained. You know, if we're not going to vaccinate and we're not going to maintain them artificially, then they've got to be able to survive and be successful. But the other side of that is it has to be financially viable. So as a farmer that runs a meat processing facility that sells meat to the public, you need to have animals that produce a quality meat. And so that was another component of when we looked at our breeds. Why did we choose those breeds? What qualities? We wanted soft, tender, we wanted wonderful flavor, and we wanted the hardiness and the ability for them to be as stress-free as possible in a natural environment. And so that's what we targeted.
That's awesome. Makes a lot of sense. And is the Florida Cracker a meat sheep? Is it a meat sheep?
It is.
It is? Okay,
it is.
Gotcha.
It is. And in the back is Summer. She is
the dog way back there.
Way back there. She is an introvert.
Yeah.
She will not come to the fence, unlike the two puppies. And she will stay back there unless you decide to come and have a conversation with her sheep. She will then become ever present.
Yeah.
So, but she's wonderful. And you know, one of the things about livestock guardian dogs is that they have different personalities, like people do. But typically, your LGDs, and I have experience with the Great Pyrenees, the Akbash, and the Maremma. We chose, and we will continue in maintaining Maremmas on the property, and because they're just a perfect match for us. But one of the things about the LGDs is you have dogs that stay with the flock or the group, and you have dogs that are more perimeter. And so one of the things that is really important is when you're looking at a livestock guardian dog, whether you already have them or you are looking to get them, is it's really important to be respectful of the personality and disposition of the dog and knowing how to best nurture those skills in that dog.
Yeah.
Don't try to force a flock dog to be a perimeter dog and a perimeter dog to be a flock dog. Because the puppies we have will be two, both of them will come to, one in December and one in January, and they're both very clearly perimeter dogs.
Yeah.
So they work in tandem with Summer, who's out here, and that works really beautifully.
I love it.
So that way, and then I don't know if you can see it from here. I maybe swing over there, but that triangular shape building or wedge on that little trailer is actually Summer's new mobile Diva Coupe, and so we designed that so that she has a space that's off the ground, and so that she could go ahead and have space underneath the trailer so she could lay, but also have a space that was designed so that the sheep could not get to her food, and so she could be out of the weather if she needed or wanted to be, but at the same time she could also see 360. So that's why we designed her mobile doghouse, the same as we've done with our mobile buildings, because the entire bottom is open.
That's cool.
So it's constant airflow. She's got one of those refillable endless feeders and that kind of thing, and it works great. And we just move, when we move the sheep, we just move her doghouse.
Rotational dog housing.
You got it. And then the other two, if anybody asks, the other two pretty much sleep off the back patio because, again, they're perimeter dogs. So they'll sleep during the day, or they're in my office. We have a 40-foot shipping container as our office, and it's air conditioned. So they'll end up laying in there on the floor all through first and part of second shift, and then By the time we're between second and third shift, I feed them the raw feed and off they go.
Cool.
So
awesome.
So, yeah.
Quick couple of questions.
Sure.
So yeah, Go Big 007. Yes, we are in Southwest Florida, just outside of Felda Farm at Circle C Farm, here with Nicole Cruz, owner-operator at the farm. Over 200 acres, or just about 200 acres in operation, multi-species. Go back and check out the beginning of this video. We had a question earlier about pigs.
Yes.
And it was from, let's see, Pizzeria 188, love the name.
Okay.
Can pigs only be grass-fed?
With no supplementation?
With no supplementation. And I'll take a stab at answering.
Go for
You tell me if I'm wrong.
Because you
here.
guys have done pigs for way longer.
Pigs are monogastric animals, meaning they only have one stomach,
Yeah.
just like humans, and they need a variety in their diet. And when it comes down to it, you might be able to raise them on just pigs, or on just grass, but it's not going to be healthy for them because they need a variety in their diet, just like humans.
Touché. And that's exactly what I was going to say. And it's the same principle with the chickens. So sometimes I get phone calls or emails or even a Facebook message, and they're like, I'm looking for only grass-fed or grass-finished chickens, and and I'm very honest with people.
Just doesn't work like that.
I guess, correct. It could if you had 5, 10, 15, 20 in your own personal backyard. But when you're running flocks of 6, 8, 10,000 every couple of months, it's not a reality.
You do need a supplement,
Yes.
but where you've made the difference is supplementing with your own locally grown, healthy, organic blend, from local farmers.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. And one of the big differences too is the rice is a cool feed, whereas some of your other grains are more, I don't want to say they're warm or hot feeds, but comparatively, we're hot down here.
Yeah.
So feeding.
I'm noticing it's starting to heat
It's
up.
dripping, yeah. So when you're looking at your environment, if you're up north and you're running and you're trying to do poultry during the fall or winter, you're going to have to provide them a feed that is going to nourish and sustain them.
Yeah.
You can't have them anemic and dying because you want to hold back one grain over the other. That's not healthy.
Yeah.
So that goes into your decision making on your feeds and your structure and your grasses or your silage or whatever you're going to do. So I think that's an important component too.
Awesome. Thank you guys for the great questions. Debbie Weathersby and Go Big 007 Pizzeria, thank you guys so much. Anybody else have any questions, go ahead and get them in. We are kind of starting to wrap up the tour. We've got a few more things to show you guys. One of them being this amazing trailer. It might not look amazing to you, but knowing what I know, I probably think you're using this trailer for loading up birds to go to processing. Is that right?
Are. Yes, because our processing adventure is a whole 3 minutes across the farm. It's not 30 minutes in the trailer and 3 hours down the road.
But something like this, like for our farm, could potentially also work for taking them out to pasture.
Yes.
What we do, we have all the crates, the big plastic crates, and we load 5 of them up in a crate. And that takes a lot of time. Then you got to lift the crates and load them out there. But if you could back something like this up right to your brooder door, potentially, maybe you could just load them into here too. But
you could. I will share with you how we do from the brooder to the pasture is we actually have a 16-foot trailer, 16-foot long trailer. I don't know, it's whatever, 8 or 9 feet wide, and it's got sides on them that are about a foot, 18 inches, and so it's a single level. So we just load them in there and bring them out and put them into their houses.
Okay, great.
We use this only for harvesting because the depth you've got to get to. So we can put about 7, depending on the size, of course, between 75 and maybe 100 on each layer.
On each layer.
And when we harvest, we'll typically do a trailer or 2, depending on how many. So we'll typically do between like 500 or 1,000 in a day. Just so that it's not too stressful for the birds or the team.
Yeah.
But the primary reason why I wanted to bring you over here is I wanted you to see the fact that it can be something simple.
Yeah.
This was just a little flatbed trailer
that you custom fabricated on top of.
Yeah, we just welded some L brackets to it and some bull panel, and it works super great. And one of my things is when Manny and I talk about stuff, again, I used the term non-negotiable earlier. There are certain things that are not negotiable. And I tell my team, I talk to Manny, I'm like, this is not negotiable for me. And that item with this is, I do not want my chickens pooping on my other chickens. I know that sounds somewhat simple or trivial in some ways, but it was a need that I had.
Yeah.
I don't want, they're not going very far. They're literally going a whole 5 minutes, or less, just by slowly going with the tractor.
But then I might get unloaded right away, and they might sit in there for a couple minutes.
So how we do it is we'll pick up in the morning. We'll pick up like 6:30 in the morning. We'll start harvesting immediately with the inspector. It's between 7 and 7:30. So we're typically done within a few hours. These two, we'll do 1 or 2 trailers. The one trailer will go over and go in once we've done our pre-op evaluation and make sure that everything is the way it's supposed to be for harvesting in accordance with our house up plans and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Then the trailer will get backed into our harvest, our kill floor.
Yeah.
So our harvest floor. And so that trailer, then the door shuts. And so this trailer also works from the standpoint of it's the exact length we need for inside.
Okay.
We have another trailer that we keep covered. And when we finish this trailer, if we're doing 2 for the day, then we'll go back and do the second trailer. And again, that trailer is the same length.
Yeah.
So it fits in there. So on this side, if we walk around it, you can, let's go this way. So the way we did it is we've got these doors and then we use a little hook. So we've got this door here. That one I can't, we've got it hooked. And then we've got these here on the side.
Okay.
And so what we did is we made it easy.
So you got a door for each layer there.
Exactly.
Very nice.
So that this way the guys can reach in, grab one bird at a time, and then go forward and move forward to the kill cone or to the cones. And so that way it makes it easy because.
Good question actually here on this line.
Stay in the shade a little bit.
Addicts Ranch asks, how do you reach the chickens in the back?
That's what this little stick is. So right here, we've got a little stick that we. If I can get this
it's like a shepherd's crook, but for chickens.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what it is. So we thought about that because that was the question that we had: is how are we going to, in an appropriate, humane way, get the chickens from the back and us not have to body surf inside?
Yeah.
So we used this exactly what you said. We modified a design, and so this way we can catch the leg, gently pull them forward, bring them out, use 2 hands, invert them in the cone, and go about the process.
Cool.
And so this way, everything is nice. It's done correctly. The chickens are not being banged up on top of one another. They're not pooping on top of one another. And it also makes it easy for us because we can get an approximate head count by how many will fit on each tier. And so that makes it also...
Yeah. Now, this is super cool, Nicole. I think you guys have been so ingenious, what's the word? Innovative, with this design. So what else do you want to show in the tour? We got a little while left, but I just want to let folks know whatever we have left.
Well, we have actually covered all of our species. And as I mentioned, our farm store is off property. So I can't show you that right now. We can do that a little bit later if we wanted to.
And you also have the online store people can check out.
We have the online store. And I would invite you in, but because we're an inspected facility, we're not going to enter today because we're in butchering and under inspection for that stuff.
No problem.
So I just want to be upfront with that. That way there's no question. But I did want to share with you about that. Now, I do have, because I get a lot of questions about shipping. And so when we went to one of the APA conferences a few years ago, then one of the questions that came up by the group of other farmers is them talking about trying to have a greater reach. And so what I did do is I pulled some of our shipping materials and I have that back around in another place we can walk to and talk about that a little bit. I'm happy to field any questions. I think that we touched on one of the ideas of social media, marketing and things like that. I want to say that one of the big things is make sure that you're identifying what makes you different, special, unique, not a comparison as to someone else isn't. It's just, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and this is what makes us great. Because one of the things is...
Do you want to start walking over there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Is that while we're all in this together, there's also, we need to be able to learn from this and learn from one another. And so in the e-commerce space, it's not an easy space.
Right.
It's just from the sales side alone, but the logistics of trying to get marketing and of the shipping side and all of those things. So one of the things that I would say is if there's anybody that's out there contemplating that, if you can coordinate with somebody who's already doing it to get some ideas, I'm happy to share. So, I'll go openly share about some of the things we've done.
Okay, great.
But it's really, it's a place that you can lose a lot of money.
Yeah.
You can lose a lot of time. You can create a negative impact on your brand, if it's not done correctly. And so that's one of the things I want to share because I've had some people call and say, hey, we want to ship our meats around the country. I'm like, okay, have you thought that through yet?
Right.
So, and when it goes back to that, so let's just hit that head on. In order to do that, you have to have a processing facility. Everything's got to be done correctly and under inspection.
Yeah.
Then from there, you have to have documentable storage space.
Right.
You've got to be able to hold that product.
If you're not doing your own processing,
Yeah.
you at least have to have some type of cold storage capabilities.
Yes.
And
it's
and
consistent. And it has emergency backup. Because I know some people, like, again, the pain that the pain that we went through in our first round was also that we went ahead and, because again, we were newbies to it, and I'll admit it wholeheartedly, we rented a freezer trailer. Well, the truth of the matter is that the freezer trailers really don't work. So at one point when we put some meat in there, the freezer trailer failed.
Lost all your meat.
And we lost the meat.
Yeah.
So, that was a painful learning experience, and it's not one that we've repeated again.
Yeah.
And so, you kind of have to think about, if I was that ground beef, or I was that chicken breast, or that whole chicken, where am I going to go through this process? What am I going to experience? If I get dropped off at the processor and I get picked up in packaging, that's all well and great. Then what happens? Where are you going to store it? How are you going to inventory it? How are you going to sell it? Where are you going to market it? Oh, you're going to ship it. Okay, so you're going to ship it. How are you going to do that?
Yeah.
You've got to.
And if folks have questions, you've got some of your packaging stuff laid out. Is that what you?
I do. Actually, I'm
go
going
ahead.
to grab Hannah and ask her.
You go ahead. Do what you need to do.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm going to walk over and grab those items. And the boxes, the cooler that's over there at the front of the house.
The white cooler?
Yeah, actually, if you don't mind grabbing those, Ryan, we'll just go to the flatbed here.
Yeah.
And we'll use the hens as a backdrop.
Okay. Yeah, you guys. So we're going to wrap up the tour soon. If you have any last minute questions, go ahead and get them now. But we are going to talk about packing and shipping for distribution. If that's something that you're considering, we'll just cover a piece of that. Like Nicole said, there is a lot to consider when you're talking about shipping your product all over the country. Everything from processing to cold storage to marketing and sales and your whole supply chain. But we're going to cover a piece of that and talk about some of the equipment or the packing materials that she uses to ship stuff all over the country. And I will check to see if we got any last minute questions here while they're gathering those up. Hey, Kadeen from Trinidad and Tobago, thanks for tuning in.
All right.
Nidra Williams says she loves your philosophy and approach to farming and life. Thank you so much for sharing.
My pleasure.
And I definitely second that gesture. One question from, let's see, Peace Be With You says, bringing in multiple products from multiple producers to one central area for consumers, she can see a benefit for that. Do you see any problems with that in terms of being an aggregate for local farmers? Has it been a challenge for you in any way?
So I only sell my meat. So that, from that standpoint, I don't have meat. I don't sell or distribute meat for anyone else. Everything that we harvest and we have on our website is all meat that comes off of our farm.
Gotcha.
And so from that standpoint, I can give you that perspective. The other perspective would be more like a local farm store style, but that brought in meats from other farms, and then more of a grocery store style. And so that way, it's just a different approach.
Yeah.
And so, but that's how we are structured right now. The other items we have in the farm store are items that are not coming from other farms because there's some commercially produced cheeses. They're high-end, high quality. The butter's the same thing. On my honeydew list is some dairy cows.
Oh, good Lord,
and
Nicole,
so,
just take it easy on yourself.
I know, no, it's not me. It's poor Manny, because it's on his honeydew list. And so, but he grew up in a dairy.
Yeah.
And he grew up, his grandparents had a creamery. So every Friday they would pick him up from school.
Yeah.
They would go to the creamery. He'd get his fresh made chocolate milk from the cows they had on their farm, and they would go to the farm.
Yeah.
So, it's a little different in how you're raised and how you do things. So,
well, let me jump in. Let me jump in here real quick. This is a good chance to let you guys know. We're going to talk about this equipment here in just a second. But if you have enjoyed this live stream as much as I have, and you're enjoying these Great American Farm Tours, be sure to subscribe to our channel, because actually this coming Monday, we're going to stick around Southwest Florida and go visit another farm. We're going to be headed to Dakin Dairy. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah.
And doing a live tour at Dakin Dairy. They have been in operation for over 50 years, and they are a sustainable, local, small scale, yet I guess they're probably like more medium scale, maybe even larger, but they do all their own dairy. So you won't want to miss that live tour coming up this Monday right here on our YouTube channel at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Pacific, and wherever you're at in the world, you can tune in live here at Heifer Ranch, whether it's morning, noon, or night. And come back and watch that video whenever. So we're going to check out a dairy farm in just a couple of days right here in Southwest Florida. You won't want to miss it. Tell me about your box here.
Well, let me give you another component. Dakin Dairy is fabulous.
Yeah, I can't wait.
It's a good family. It's a really neat farm. It's really well set up. They do a really nice job. So you'll have a great time up there, and so will the people.
Yeah, they were very friendly in coordinating the tour, and very receptive to the idea. So we're really excited to go check them out.
You'll have a blast.
Good.
Okay, so this is what we have. So we got a little bit of a breeze, so I'm going to lay a little bit of this stuff sideways so it doesn't blow over. But one of the things I want to just kind of start with is our cooler. So what we did is, you can see I've got printed cooler all the way around.
Where is that? Printed cooler?
Oh yeah, no. So
you got your printed
I printed everything
labels
on here because it was going to make it easier. Since we do shipping around the country, we ship through both ground and through air. So in order to be compliant with airplane shipping, in accordance with the FAA regulations, we had to have a statement on here about the dry ice.
I see.
Okay?
Gotcha.
So most people don't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got that on here. We've also got a little tidbit that talks about the fact that since we've got meat and dry ice, it may condensate. Therefore, just continue, because we know it may condensate. It's 105 degrees down here, and it's going to 75 degrees. It's just, basic. But if not, then it'll get thrown out.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And then what we did is we took advantage of all four sides of our box, and this is kind of going into that quasi-social media marketing component, in addition to the actual physical components of the shipping materials. So we've got that. We've marked it so that we've got our branding on it, but we've also very clearly identified the fact that it's perishable. And so that way, if it's next to a couple of boxes of shoes or diapers or whatever's in transit, hopefully when they look at this, they go, okay, that's more urgent, that's perishable, we need to make sure that we get that moving along. Same thing over here. I talked about taste the difference and feel the difference. This is our trademark, part of our trademark marketing, so I put that on here. Because even though people know they're shopping with us and they know it's coming, it's just really neat to know that when you get there, it's like, oh, this is just so awesome.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to feel good because it tastes so good, and it's just high quality. So along those lines, so that was the exterior of the box. We originally had brown boxes and we put stickers on them, and that didn't work so well because the stickers would come off. And it really, but it was what we started with. And so, we had to look at when do we want to do what, and we also looked at how, the reality is you can sink a whole bunch of money and financial resources into this, but if you do that and you didn't do it quite right, or you need to change it, then now you're out all of that expense and materials that you may or may not be able to use. So I highly recommend baby steps on this, and then go into whatever you want after you figure out exactly what you want on the box. Now, inside we have our cooler. And so what we actually did is can we go to the other side so we get the sunlight in it? Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. Well, do you want to go in the shade?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Shade?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a little hard to see. I know you guys
no problem.
I can't see it quite on my phone, so we can go right here so you can see it a lot better.
Okay.
Is this okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to drop these things, and then I'm going to set the drinks down because it is super, super, super hot.
Yeah.
Put those down real quick. Okay, so what we've got over here is our coolers. And so what we did is we worked with a company here in Florida. We try to work with as many family companies as we possibly can. Pricing wise, we've been very fortunate because everybody tries to be equally competitive. But if in order to get the quality of the product, to make sure that my meats get to you the way they need to get to you, if I have to pay a little bit more, I'm going to pay a little bit more, because that's what's important about getting our meats to you. And so what we did is we worked with the engineers of the foam company that's here in Florida, and we actually designed, and we have a patent pending design on our cooler.
Oh, very cool.
And so what we did is a three-side. It's an 1.5 inches thick. I can't remember the R value on it, but it'll last 5 to 7 days in transit.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty rockin'. So we've got two 3-piece panels, and we put those in, and then we slide this in here like so.
Do you put inventor on your resume too?
I haven't updated my CV in a while. I think it's like 5 or 6 pages.
Farmer, abattoir, inventor, educator, extraordinaire,
engineer, designer,
so cool.
trailer designer. Well, when you're, it's funny because like I mentioned before, somebody's like, oh, you're just a farmer. And I'm like, yeah, okay. We'll be nice to you. So we did that, and then we use dry ice, hence the dry ice thing, but also because with our meats, we do not use any chemicals. So we do not gas our meats, we don't color our meats, we don't inject our meats, we don't do anything artificial, and we don't coat them with any preservatives. So everything we do is frozen. So when we immediately go from the butcher shop to packaging to the freezer, and we have a blast freezer, so give or take 30 minutes to an hour, and we're frozen, which is, but again, that was an investment that we believe was important. And so when we pack with dry ice, we pack all the meats, and then depending on whether it's ground or air, we make sure that we're compliant with the FAA max of 5 pounds of dry ice. So it typically comes to you minimum of 2-day airplane for these. And then if we're shipping ground, we can put more dry ice in, there's no limit. So we put a bunch more in to make sure it gets there.
Yeah, because you really want it dense, right? When you're shipping, you don't want any gaps or spaces.
Correct.
You wanted a big block of ice, basically.
Correct, you got it. And, and actually, if there isn't at least 5 to 7 pounds of meat with the dry ice, it actually makes it harder for the meat to stay cold because there's just not enough density in there to hold the temperature.
Do you do shipping minimums?
No, we don't do a shipping minimum. What we do is because of the nature of the cost of shipping, we do have a shipping cost. And so if it's local to us or within a certain southeast region, it's $24.99 for up to 20 pounds. For each 20 pounds, it's $24.99. And then if it's out of the southeast region, which would mean it typically go longer by ground or by airplane, then it's $44.99.
Okay,
and unfortunately, there's been a real big misperception or conception or information transfer by a lot of the bigger companies implying and stating that shipping is free. But shipping's not free. And to ship perishable product of quality to make sure it gets there is not cheap. And so we basically needed to ask or have asked our clientele to share in that. We still pay 50 to 60% of it because believe it or not, this box is close to $20+ to put this together. And so, there's a lot of cost. It's not just, that's just foam in a box. You got foam, you've got box, you've got specific design.
And I love this angled design you got going on here. I don't know if you guys can tell, but that is angled. It fits right in here.
Exactly. So when we close this,
flat,
like so,
very cool.
and then you put the top down.
I got some friends that might be interested in licensing your patent someday.
Yeah, no, that's not a problem. And then we tape it up and we put the shipping label across the top. And so we do that in such a way that it's easy and it keeps it nice and tight. But most importantly, that pressure to put down the lid is airlocking it. And so that's what gives us that 5, 6, 7 days in transit. So
cool.
I mean, I haven't done a lot of videos, but I can do some more on our website. They can always watch this out. Yeah, absolutely, and see all.
What are these other 2 pieces right here?
So this is how we ship our eggs. So again, there was nothing out there, so we created it. Where we've been, as you said, inventing a whole lot of stuff. So we have a small box, and we use this, and then we designed our egg shipper. So we have a sandwich style egg shipper in which every single egg is held individually, and we sandwich the eggs. We take them, push them into the box.
Wow.
They slide in. We close them up. Now, we also ship an unwashed egg because if it's washed, it needs refrigeration. Our eggs travel 2 or 3 days to get to you. So we ship a truly unwashed egg. They just need to be washed up. So once we close this up, we also then go ahead and put egg washing instructions just to remind everybody. So we've got that on there to make it easy and helpful. And so that way, they can get involved. And that's also the extension of knowing that when you're buying Circle C Farm eggs, you're getting them out of the pasture, out of the house, the hen coop that you saw, and you get to take that extension of that pastured egg, wash it up, and put it in your refrigerator, and it'll last forever.
That's so cool.
So, yeah. So that's what we did. And then with the quail eggs, because we also have some quail, we have the trifold. And we did that so that it held each little quail egg, and then we could close it up and we wrap it up in bubble, and it goes into a box similar, and then we
ship it out like that. That's so cool. I've never heard of folks shipping eggs quite like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a really inventive systems here.
There was nothing on the market. We tried several other versions. We looked at the way I ordered eggs from other farms. They came to me broken. And I was like, well, it kind of defeats the purpose to pay for 4 dozen when you get 1 dozen. And as a farmer, it's kind of, I look at the fact that I bought it, I purchased them as an experiment, but I'm also not then going to go back to that farmer and say, hey, of the 4 I bought and you sent, I only got 1. Because I understand and get that side. But as a customer, I bought and paid for those eggs. And so I got excited about the eggs coming, just like our clientele does when our eggs get shipped. So we wanted to make sure that we could send them and get them to you without them breaking. Now, along that same line, on occasion, we do get some broken eggs. On occasion in shipping, they get crushed. Those are things beyond our control, and we take care of that. We have an amazing clientele, so they'll send us an email and say, hey, Nicole, the eggs came in, looks like the box was really beat up. They'll shoot us a picture, and clearly all the eggs are a mess. So, we take care of that, and because our Circle C family is important to us. In that way, we want to make good on it. But this has alleviated pretty much all of that.
And the website again?
Is eatcirclecfarm.com.
Eatcirclecfarm.com.
Yes. So they can jump on there, they can watch this YouTube, they can see all the different things in detail, and then if they want to go ahead and grab something, they can do that. And if they're local to us in Naples, Bonita, Estero, Fort Myers, Cape Coral, or even out of Miami, Fort Lauderdale, you can drive over to the store and shop with us 6 days a week at the farm store.
So cool. Let me jump in here real quick. Guys, I just want to say thank you so much for hanging around with us on this live tour. And please, in the chat, if you've enjoyed, or in the comments, if you've enjoyed this live stream, let Nicole know what you think. Give her a thank you, round of applause, ask any questions you have, whatever it is. Just let us know in the chat, either in the live chat or in the comments, how this tour has been for you. Nicole, on behalf of Heifer USA and everyone watching, I want to just say thank you so incredibly much for taking us on this live tour today.
It is my pleasure. I'm so glad you got to come.
It has been so incredibly enlightening. I have learned a ton. I've been working on farms and visiting farms for a while now, but you're doing some really amazing things here that I've learned from, and I hope that you guys watching at home have too. And if you've enjoyed the live tour, this coming Monday we'll be at Dakin Dairy right here in Southwest Florida. That's Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern. So check that one out. Nicole, any closing thoughts before we end the stream today? Anything you'd like to share about your farm, your life, your message, just anything?
Well, thank you all for being with us today, and thank you for coming in, because this was an amazing opportunity for us to share, because this really is one of our first opportunities to share with as many people as follow you. And the other thing I would say is to all the farmers out there, hang in there. It's been rough, it's tough, it's sometimes overwhelmingly more than most of us can sometimes handle, but we are a support for one another. We are here, we will stay, and as farmers in this country, we will keep feeding everyone. And so hang in there. We're all here to support one another, and we will get through whatever, and we will all blossom. And if we can continue to build the community of farmers within our circle of farm space around our little ecosystems, as well as our bigger circles, and nationally as well as globally, I think we can continue to benefit from one another's trials and experiences, and just keep doing it, and keep being open about the fact that sometimes stuff doesn't work, and sometimes it does.
And that's part of I think I asked you this, that's part of the name of Circle C, right?
Yes.
Part of why you guys, tell a little bit why it's Circle C. Let's start from the beginning. Let's end with the beginning here.
Yes, thank you. And we talked about that. So Circle C Farm, the C is for our family name, which is Cruz. And the circle is really about the fact that everything begins and ends on this property. And we take great pride in the fact that our livestock begin here, or they are here at a very young age, if we're working with other farmers, and that we harvest by hand humanely here on our farm. So it really is from our pasture to your plate. And we mean that with reverence and respect, because we are the whole circle. And then as we eat those meats and are appreciative and grateful for what those proteins have brought to us, we then continue the circle by giving back to the livestock that we continue to raise.
That's beautifully spoken. Well said. Nicole, thank you again. To all our viewers, thank you guys so much. From everybody at Heifer USA, thank you guys for joining us. Subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and be sure to check out our other great content. We'll be doing a lot more of these live farm tours in the days, months, and weeks to come, because like Nicole said, it's all about learning and growing together, and at Heifer USA, that's what we're all about. Thanks again, Nicole.
Thank you.
We've really enjoyed it. I can see that storm is coming in over there, and so I think we're going to end at a good time here. All right, guys, take care, be safe, brush your hair, brush your teeth, and we'll talk to you next time.